the hearings of the people. That's my. Thank you.
Okay, should I have a go at that now, or are we
me?
compiling the questions? Yes, I can hear you, Mr. Andrew.
Go ahead. I've asked the question, please.
Oh,
thank you.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. I think what we've seen or what we are experiencing today is a double-edged thing. In the first place, if you look at brand and branding, I honestly can't say that Nigeria consciously developed its brand and the associated elements, like the ministries, departments, and agencies, in such a way that people can see it as a brand that needs to be evaluated on that basis. I think at best, everything has been subsumed under Nigeria as a country, and that is what we expect to all write on. Unfortunately, brand Nigeria itself means different things to different people, and that's the bigger challenge. So we don't have anything to either collectively align our visions, our aspirations, our desires, and so on and so forth, to rally us as a brand that has a clear profile in the marketplace. So the first fundamental thing that we need to do is for us to understand that as a country, we need to be conscious of our brand, we need to be conscious of our profile, and we need to be conscious of what it is that we develop as values and characteristics. When that is done, we see that that will percolate, to permeate every area, every facet of our public life. So right now as we speak, because Nigeria itself does not have a consistent and coherent brand reputation, it is also rubbing off negatively on the public service. So the experience that people have of the public service is not exactly a palatable one. So I reckon that the first place to start is for us to be conscious that there are a body of values that we need to build to be able to engage with people who ultimately are the users of brands. I'll give you a little example. Over the weekend, an incident happened somewhere in Ogun State where overzealous local government officials, basically took it out on a housewife, and they beat her up. Why? Because they said she was breaking the rules of COVID-19 restriction. Now, let's even assume that this was the case. We now have a situation where a public official is beating up, in the woman's own account, a housewife of 8 years, whose husband has never raised his hand to beat her. Now you have a public official who is being paid from our own taxes and our own resources, beating up somebody is meant to be serving. So that is what you have when people are not conscious that as a brand, you cannot just do anything that you like. I always say to people that the moment you become a brand that is in the public space, you have to be guided by public trust. So going back to your question, the fundamental thing is that we have to see ourselves as a brand, as a nation, as a state, and as local governments. I think when we do that, every other thing will then fall into place. It's a very long and complex thing. Thankfully, today, people don't get the way we did anymore because of technology. So this same man that I was talking about was recorded, and within hours, I understand that the man was suspended because the governor got to know, the local government chairman got to know, and I just saw a posting also by the Oba of that area. So that is how strong your brand is. Nobody wants your reputation to be rubbished in the marketplace. The way to treat every encounter that we have with the public, with the customers, as a responsible brand. Thank you. Any other question, please? Any other questions?
I think there's none for now. Thank you so much, Dr. Tunji.
My pleasure.
I was hoping we would have Barrister Irukera back online, but apparently they are not yet here, and we don't know if they are going to return back online. But in respect to branding right now, Doctor, I want to ask, as a brand activist in your sector, in your organization, how do you work with public service holders in Nigeria, in government, to portray Nigeria as a country, the brand, for what it stands for and for what it is actually? Because with the trend happening now, even with the recent happenings in Ghana, with the High Commission in Ghana being knocked, you know, I'm sure, I know this may not be your area for bilateral relations or policies, but I'm sure you have something to say as regards this. Your mic.
All right. Yes, I've unmuted. Thank you very much for that question. Indeed, there have been several initiatives from the past where there have been attempts at branding Nigeria. But what we found is that those attempts don't run deep. They've never been consistent. They've never been continuous. And it looks like each regime comes and they have their own perspectives about how these things should be done. Now, what ideally should be is that as a nation, we need to come together and understand the essence of our nation, of our being. And that is what we will need to portray to outsiders, for them to understand that this is what we stand for. This is what we stand for, and this is how we would like to be seen and perceived going forward. And I say that from the point of view of how to commercialize our identity. For instance, you cannot claim to be a tourist nation if you are not a welcoming people, all right? And if you claim to be a welcoming people, it's not by merely saying it, it's by the aggregate of actions, policies, things that we do to really show that we are welcoming and accommodating people. So I guess the point I'm going is that we have to take care of the fundamentals first. But my concern is this. I honestly don't get the impression that the government, and I'm not talking about this present government, I honestly don't think they understand and value the importance of branding in its full notions and as a basis for nation building. Because what you see is that there are very weak structures governing whatever it has to do with the branding of the nation. But when we become conscious of that, then it helps us to turn around the corner. For instance, we are at the point where oil has tanked, or earnings from oil has tanked. The most important thing for us to consider is how to use our creativity, how to leverage our creativity, how to leverage our resources as a nation to be able to drive tourism, to be able to drive leisure, to be able to drive creativity. Because we have the population, we have the natural resources to be able to do this, we have all the elements that can make us to excel. But all of this has to come first and foremost by having a clear identity, which you don't have. When you have an identity, your profile is clear. When your profile is clear, your values are clear. When your values are clear, your character is clear. But all of this is all muddled up right now. So we need to go back to the basics. We need to formulate policies that helps us to design, decipher, and develop who we are, create the right kind of identity, create the right kind of values around that identity, drive those notions in an organic manner, that there's ownership across board, and that becomes the locomotive with which we get things done and with which we are able to take our place in the Committee of Nations. Unless and otherwise that is done, it becomes still a very difficult thing to do. I'm sure you will recollect, or you might have known, you might have become accustomed to the fact that people claim, especially outsiders, that when they talk to us as individuals, they find us really interesting and enterprising and good to deal with. But the moment they bring us together as a nation, then something happens. Unless otherwise, maybe we're playing football. That's the only thing that unites us as a passion. For every other thing, we don't have a clear identity, we don't have a clear mandate, we don't have a clear direction because we are not in agreement. We cannot stand for something when we are not in unison, where we are not unified under a common agreement.